welcome to another Modern Mind Ancient Book, where we're going back to move forward. We're finding a love for the law, the prophets, and the writings. This is the third week of the book of Genesis, and we're going to move into the third son, Jacob, which everybody knows, but I'm not sure we know enough about. Before we get started, it is Friday, Shabbat Shalom. Thanks for joining us. We are going to say some prayers, give thanks for the week, and light some candles. Melissa, Tika, would you like to come up? We women bring light into the world, new life, and so it's women that light the candles and say the prayers.
Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who in your goodness formed the heavens by wisdom and stretched out the earth upon its foundations. You established the sun and moon to mark the times, the stars to declare your glory in the night. You set the earth as a home for humankind, a place of wonder. On the seventh day you completed your work, and you blessed this day and made it holy. You gave it to your people, a gift of peace, a reminder of creation, a sign of the covenant between you and us forever. We remember your goodness in the garden. When you walked with Adam in the cool of the day, you made the world and called it very good. And to this day your mercy renews all things. Blessed are you, Lord, who brings forth rest from toil, light from darkness, peace from striving, and gives us this holy time to talk and enjoy everything you have done. Amen.
Amen.
Go ahead and light the candles. You know, this is what Jesus was talking about when he said, do you light a candle? Do you light a lamp and hide it? This happened every Friday. This was something that has been going on for thousands of years. And it's something that you just find in the Bible. It's not really something that we should overlook. It's something that we should take part in, enjoy, and find the fruitfulness in just being thankful every week. So, Lord, we are thankful. We're thankful for today. We're thankful for this special day that you set apart, Father, not for you, but for us. We're thankful that you gave us our bodies and our lives, that you made us to be earth dwellers, that you gave us dry land. Thank you for the dry land. Thank you for the sun, the moon, the stars. Thank you for the plants and the animals. Thank you that your Son was present, hovering over the waters and creating the one you planned to redeem us. Thank you for redeeming us. Thank you for these moments. And Lord, we just invite you to be here with us tonight. That as we go through Genesis chapter 26 to chapter 36, that you're here, that you're with us, and that we're learning from you and with you. And we just thank you for the miracle of this word that you've given us, not only for the Son, who is the Word, but for the written word that has been cherished for many thousands of years, that we have the privilege and the blessing to learn from you through it. And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. I love you. Okay. We're going to go back before we move forward on this one, because we didn't spend a whole bunch of time on Isaac last week, and we kind of skipped over something that is relatively important about how Abraham's covenant came to be. So the covenant of pieces, or the covenant of parts. There is a motif that plays in this. The creation narrative found in Genesis 1, 2, and 3 carries itself out all the way through the entire Bible. It's repeated over and over and over again. And so when Abraham fell asleep, okay, so he had cut these animals, and we're talking about the covenant of parts, and it's found in Genesis 15. When he had cut these animals in parts, and he put the birds whole on the top, and he scattered off the birds of the air. The servants of God were not to devour this, right? Like, this was not something that was to be devoured. It was to be cherished because it was a covenant. And Abraham was waiting direction. How was he supposed to honor this covenant? Well, he fell asleep, and terror and great darkness fell on him. This covenant it's like Noah's flood. What he's saying to Abraham is, I'm going to recreate the earth from you, right? So when Noah's flood happens and they come off of the boat, it's noted, and it's important to note, that that covenant says that God knows that we are evil, right? That's not like a flowery picture. But the good thing is that he knows, and yet still wants to covenant with us. And so that carries through to Abraham. This is very much that motif. God is ready to create a new people now. Because what's happened is the sons of Noah, they've come out and it's evil just like it was. And Abraham's, when we get to like these kids, Isaac and Jacob at the end of this one, we're going to see that they didn't get better, right? They weren't doing things better than what was happening really before the flood. It's not much different. So when darkness fell on him and a terror came on him, this is what God said. Know for certain that your descendants will be strangers in a land not theirs, where they will be enslaved and oppressed for 400 years. But I will also judge the nation whom they serve. And afterward, they will come out with many possessions. As for you, you shall go to your fathers in peace. You will be buried at a good old age. Then in the fourth generation, they will return here, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete. God cares about people. Were the Amorites in covenant with him? No. But there was still something redeemable about those people. God has been active in this world he's the God of creation. We don't know what it is that is the covenant or that is the people that are present here. But when we go into the next section, we're going to see that the way that they live their lives, it's not Judaism. It's not Christianity. It's different. So there is a people here, the Amorites, and they're relatives, right? So it's not complete yet. And after the sun had set, then it was very dark, and there appeared smoke and flame. Smoke and flame. Bear that image in mind, because it is coming. It's going to be repeated multiple times. Smoke and flame, the kivod, the glory of God. The light was over the waters, right? Now there's a light between the carcasses, but this time it has smoke. And that smoke is a symbol. It's going to be repeated. Smoke is sacrifice. When an animal is burned, its atoms carbonize, and it goes up to the heavens. There are sacrifices that are burned entirely. Nothing is taken out. Sin offerings, particularly. And it's the innocent that are burned, not the guilty. So there's smoke now and there's light. Just think Genesis. There's light, right? And it's that light that is making things new. It's that light that is making the covenant. It's that light that is moving through. It's imperative that when we look at these books, we understand that it's not people that are making these covenants. It's not people that are being blessed because of what they've done. It's God who is choosing people to make a difference in the world because it's his world still. Even though there is a portion of it that will never see him. Okay? So then the Lord made a covenant with Abraham. He said, to your descendants I will give the land. Haaretz. It's a very important theme, land. Again, what did people get put on when they were created? The land. Now there's going to be a land that is particularly for God's people. The land. There's a carve out. From the river of Egypt as far as the great river Euphrates. Does Israel own that land right now? Nope. Have they ever? Never. They've never owned that land to date. So all these nations will become their possessions. And they're all the relatives that were told that would become their possessions. So now we get to the closeout of chapter 25, and we're gonna go to 26. But let's close this out, and then we'll start this week's lesson. So Avram had a wife named Keturah, and Keturah gave him Midian, the Midians. Right? That's another thing to pay attention to, because Job, the land of Uz, is a Midianite place. Jethro is a Midianite high priest. So all these things, they come back into play. These are Abraham's relatives, right? Abraham founded so many nations have come from him, but only one blessed line, one high priestly line. So after, his wife Sarah dies, he takes Keturah, and Midians, the Midianites, that's one of the lines that come from him. Now, the book is designed this way. The first, Ishmael, his line, is delineated, but then it just stops. And it goes to Isaac. And Isaac gets a lot more detail in it, okay? So, in Isaac's generations, this tells you, and the Bible's cool like that, and these are, we can't do it tonight because there's just not enough time, but you wouldn't think that these generations are as important as they are. But if you take the time, and I know this is a weird thing to say, but to memorize these, then just lights start clicking all over the place. It just pops all over the place, who these people are and how it later becomes important. So Isaac and Ishmael, they are the seed war, okay? Everything that Isaac is, Ishmael is not. Isaac is a man who is calm and collected, who follows after Abraham, who does what he's told, who's willing to be sacrificed. And Ishmael is a killer. Ishmael is a strong man. Ishmael takes from the people of Canaan for his wife. He goes with what his eyes see, and then he tastes, right? The apple thing. That this whole thing follows through that. The first sin is to see with your eyes and take and eat. And that's who Ishmael is. But Isaac, not so much. Okay, go to the next slide here. So these are the important things to just remember as we go through this. And we should start doing this beforehand, and then we'll kind of reiterate at the end. So Jacob has two names, Yaakov and Yisrael. Okay? So the heel grabber and the one who wrestles with God. We're going to see in God's world, there is often two things that are the same thing. And it really starts to become a theme in this next section. The ladder dream, okay? And we're gonna talk about it more, but that ladder dream is super, super important. And this is where, theology matters. So if we don't have a Sheol where the dead are held, then the ladder thing doesn't make a whole bunch of sense. But what the latter does do, if we have a Sheol where the dead are held, meaning the unclean, those who will never see the kingdom to come, the ones held for judgment. But at this point, because Jesus has not taken the keys of hell yet, it's where all are held. But Sheol is a place where particularly the holding place is, right? But the latter dream tells us that God is going to make a way that this Sheol, this earth, can be opened to the heavens. And it won't be men. It'll be God that makes that way. Jacob's ladder is very prophetic. Then he gets his name changed to Israel, which is that spiritual struggle that he has. And then there's a covenant renewal at the house of God, Bethel. The Christian teaching is that it's, that's typology of Christ, right? And it's found in John 1. So what I'm saying is not out in left field. But we have to understand that if we don't understand Sheol, where the dead are held, then the latter really doesn't make a whole bunch of sense, right? Because in the context, it has a meaning. Jacob knew what the meaning was. It means that those who are here can have experiences with those who are in the heavens, and that they will ascend and descend, but on the one. They had a messianic worldview already. And we saw it in Job. I will see my Savior long after my flesh is gone in my flesh. And this latter is part of that worldview. Jacob's transformation is sanctification. Who he was, and we're going to learn a lot about it in a minute, changes a lot. And then God is faithful through the weakness of men. So that's kind of like the gist of this. You can go to the next screen. Okay, so Isaac is an interesting guy because he loved his father and he was faithful to the call that was given to Abraham, and he carried it, kind of. But he wasn't the politician that Abraham was. He wasn't the strong leader that Abraham was. And he just didn't have the same drive with the people around him. They started having problems. What was there began to be a fight. So where there was peace with the neighbors, well, they started to say, no, well, we're going to close up your wells and you're going to move on. I think mostly just because Isaac was a very different personality. He was much more apathetic. Whereas Abraham was much more political. He was a talker, a leader, a teacher, a debater. He was that guy. He would sit at the city. He would sit at the gate of his little city that he had, and anybody who walked by and anybody that he dealt with, and he was into making treaties and covenants with people. But Isaac, not so much. And you had Ishmael now causing problems. And that is also from Abraham. So this violent part of Abraham that came from Abraham is not doing well. Isaac and Ishmael are associated with one another. And so as strong as Ishmael was, Isaac was weak. And that's what you see over here. It starts out with where he settles in Gerar, and then there's quarrels. There's quarrels over these wells. And what is a well? It is the water that God provides, right? So remember the three-tiered universe, right? The three-tiered world. You got the waters below that house the dead, that's salt, that is death for you. Then you have the dry land where you belong. And then you have the heavens above, the waters above. And if you dig down on the earth, God provides sweet water. He provides for you sustenance. That is particularly created for human beings. The filtration system is what we call it today, right? And it flows down in rivers. And it's what we need for life. 2 days without water, and you're probably going to die. And so he's just not having a good time here. And where his father had a covenant with Abimelech, right, the father king, Isaac doesn't have a good relationship with this guy. He says, you're too strong for me, get out of here. And it's rough. So now Isaac is in a rough place. However, because he was so strong, because he was so wealthy, God continued to bless Abraham tremendously. And he continued to bless Isaac tremendously. And because of that, Abimelech still made a covenant with him. So they were still safe, but only because God was with him. They weren't welcome in this place anymore. And to top it off, where Ishmael went and he took, a wife from the Canaanites, he went and he took Rebekah. And the agreement is that Isaac would not go to Padan Aram, to Haran. He would not be allowed to go there. He would have to stay where he is, and she would come to him. So she did. But she had a problem. They had a problem because they couldn't have children. Now, these stories, and again, the authenticity of these stories stands out because being kind of like a royal line, right? These are leaders. These are the people that are over people. They would take from their relatives. And so that's what they did. And it causes problems. So Rebekah, for a long time, couldn't have children. But eventually, she too had twins, too. Jacob and Esau. And they both had this seed war thing going on. So Esau came out red, like Adam, right? Like the first man. He's that seed. He's that side. He's red and he's hairy and he's hardworking and he's a killer. And he goes out and he's just a wanderer. It's all there. It's all the seed war. It's Cain and Abel. Then you get Jacob, who is not like that. Jacob stays in the tents with his mom. He stays and he learns, and every once in a while he'll go do some things. And Esau, well, he's sort of like this violent version of a person who's real haphazard about things. He sees and he takes. It's the fall. So he comes in and, Jacob's ready to receive him. And he says, make me something. And he says, okay, fine. The prophecy's already been spoken that the younger would serve the older because Jacob came out clasping onto the heel. Jacob was that guy too from the beginning. This family, if you like drama, this is drama. This is the second generation of drama because Ishmael and Isaac were also full of all this. The women didn't like each other. The kids didn't like each other. They had to separate their ways. When Abraham passed, they just kind of like stopped being brothers. There's a seed war. There's his seed and God's seed. And that's what this is. So when Esau comes in, he's hungry, he's sweaty, and he tells him, make me something. And Jacob's like, fine, I already know what the prophecy is. Give me your birthright. You're going to give it to me anyways. So he says, sure, what is it to me if I'm going to die? So he makes him a red stew, right? Now, this idea of red, it's not red that's important. It's Edom. It's what's coming. It's what Habakkuk speaks about. Everything in this is today, the past, and the future in one story. That's why it's important to read very carefully later, right? Listen to what I'm saying. The Bible is meant for the big picture first, then the details. Because if you can just skim this 100 times, then you can pick out the details. If you get stuck on the details, you'll never leave one chapter. That's how it works. So if you go through this book and you get the big story out of it, where you see the creation, the fall, the covenants, the people who live out the fall and the seed war, and then you see how Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they're extremely exceptional people. And I want to be careful how I speak about them because they're people that God chose, but they're not that righteous. They're people who struggle tremendously. And it's not for lack of want. It's not for lack of love for God, although Jacob has some issues. What it is God knows that we're evil. And so these people are living this out. There's nothing righteous in action. There's no way to be saved by what we do. But when God speaks, chooses, calls, and conforms, you change. Does that mean that I'm a Calvinist? No. Does it mean I'm an Arminianist? No. It means I'm a compatibilist. It means I believe that God is 100% in control, but that he shares evil, he allows for evil with us right now. Because he's working toward an end. There's this eternal line. There's a thread that runs from the beginning of creation that was there long before creation, that runs all the way until the earth stops being what the earth is today, and then into the forever, which is far longer than the earth will ever be. In both cases, the beginning and the end. And it's that thread that's just mercy and grace. There's no other way to put it. Because our father, my father, Abraham, is as capable and as amazing as he was, produced Ishmael and Isaac. And neither one of them had it together. Ishmael worse than Isaac. But Isaac's life is certainly interesting. So, at the point that he has Isaac, that Isaac has Esau and Jacob, Jacob takes the blessing, right? There's this moment. And it's a bad moment. Because Isaac, knowing the promise, he knew exactly how this was going to be. It was prophesied when the two were born that the younger would serve, or that the older would serve the younger. But Isaac, he says, I don't know when I'm going to die. Esau, go and cook my favorite food and bring it to me. He was trying to usurp God's prophecy. And it's an interesting part of the story. And it's one of the things that makes the Bible so good, because it's recorded in a way that shows God faithful and men struggle. So Isaac, and he's blind. There's no light in his eyes. So all these themes, all these motifs are playing. He can't see, he has no light. And he's trying to bless Esau with the promise that he knows God prophesied would be Jacob's. But it doesn't work that way because of the scheming of men. So, Rebecca hears it. And she's like, come on, Jacob, come here. Put on, go get me some goats, 2 goats. And it's you have to see the goats. The goats are an important part. And you see these in all these cases. Goats are sin offerings. So you see the goat motif is just strong. It's strong in all this. So she says, go get 2 goats. Bring them to me, and I will produce a savory meal just like your father loves. Go put on Esau's best garbs, which she had in her tent. And then they take the skin and put it on him. The goat skin. That sounds like Genesis, right? So he received a covering even though he was doing the wrong thing, right? It's Genesis. So he goes in there and he says, here I am. Here's your food, Dad. And he says, well, you sound like Jacob, but you smell like Esau and you feel like Esau. Is it really you? And then he just flat out lies. Yes, it is me. In the beginning, he doesn't lie because he says, how did you return with the food? And Jacob says, well, your God gave it to me, right? And why did he say your God? Because that's the way that Esau speaks. He's pretending. Esau was a wild guy. He didn't have that same worldview. And that's why he wasn't chosen. So he says, your God made it so I could have this quickly. But then he flat out lies. Are you Esau? Yes, I am. And then he receives the blessing. And that blessing, it it's a great blessing. But it's not a blessing that ever should have been offered to Esau. Never should have been offered to him. It wasn't right for Esau to have it. It was never to be given to Esau. It was prophesied that way. But Jacob stole it. And that's how the Bible records these stories. And that's what we are. I mean, I love these books for these reasons. Because I don't read an idealized worldview. I read people who are sleeping with their cousins who can't believe what they've been told and who scheme and plot their way through life. But God's like, I already knew you were evil. I'm still working through you. I know you're foolish. I'm still working through you. And I know me. So when Jesus said, remove the beam from your own eye, I can read this and I can think carefully about who I am. And I can go, oh yeah, you're right. You are right. I am not better than the people that you have loved for all this time. And why you love us, Lord, I don't know. Except for that he made us in his image, and we are his. And that brings me great courage. Because I know that despite my evil, I can look and I can see the men that he chose and the things that they did. And I can go, yeah, but you still love me. So is the Old Testament antithetical to Jesus? No, this is exactly the same thing. This is grace. When Jacob lied, he broke a commandment. And it's the garden motif all day long. A skin was provided to him. Right? And Isaac has no light in his eyes. It's a fallen group of people. And because of them, it means nothing. It means nothing to him. He said, I will keep a remnant for myself. It's not about what we do. It's about this. It's about the person. Isaac was a good man, even though he was a horrible man. It's both of those things. And it's because God saw something in him. And God created something in him. When he was young, he was such an obedient young man that he was willing to lay on a fire pile to glorify the kingdom under his father. And his father was ready to strike him and pour him out to glorify the kingdom. And it was that faith, that's what God loves. Now, should we go offer our children? Absolutely not. We talked about that last week. Our children are never to be offered, not involuntarily, not voluntarily. We are not murderers. That's why it was not allowed. But what is present there, the seed of what's present there, the seed, which is the seed of God, not the seed of Satan, is the love of God above self. It's the love of God above any material thing, about anything that we treasure, any possession we have. It's him above all, just like Jesus taught. This book, Genesis, is the gospel. Nothing less. It is grace and it is mercy. Listen to Isaac. See, the smell of my son is like the smell of the field which the Lord has blessed. Now may God give you of the dew of heaven and of the fatness of the earth and an abundance of grain and new wine. May people serve you and nations bow down to you. Be master of your brothers. And may your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be those who curse you, and blessed be those who bless you. That's the Abrahamic covenant. And was it because he was a righteous man? No, it was because the mantle gets passed to the children. It's about teaching and leading and trusting God to bring the next generation to fruition. Because after Isaac was Well, Isaac didn't die yet. But after this happens, let's just move on to the next thing. So as soon as Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, Jacob had hardly gone out, and Esau, his brother, came in from hunting. Then he made savory food, and he said to his father, "Let my father arise and eat." And his father said, "Who are you?" "I'm your son, your firstborn, Esau." Isaac trembled violently. "Then who was it that brought me food?" Uh-oh. Right? He subverted his own father's desire to bless the firstborn. But it's not the first time you'll see that either. Remember this moment. This gets played out over and over and over again. This is a motif. Later on, when Joseph brings his sons to Jacob, Jacob crosses his hands. This is not new, and it's the lowest that gets elevated. Maybe it's the one who was crucified that gets elevated. The same theme, the same motifs. So he cried out, and he said, "Your brother deceived me. He is not rightly called Jacob," the supplanter, right? He's just living his name out. This name is very, very important. In the ancient world, names really matter. To me, for my children, the names matter. I name my children. Now, I named my son Jacob so that he could become Israel, not so that he could remain a Jacob. But based on the story, because I know, as evil as I am, my children aren't going to escape it. But that if I trust God, he'll carry them through. And I want him to carry my one and only son, my strength. I want him to carry her to the best man that will love her for all of her days and bring generations that love God. And I want him to carry my son to be the kind of guy that has the ability to walk with him in whatever way, shape, and form that is. And that's who Jacob is. He can walk with God. He's doing what was prophesied. And his wife Isaac's wife is doing what is prophesied, Rebekah, but it's not the right thing. It's just the thing. It's kind of, right? This is an interesting part of these books. So is he not rightly called him? Now Isaac replied, "Behold, I have made him your master, and all his relatives I have given to him as servants with grain and new wine, and I have sustained him. Now, as for you then, what can I do, my son?" And he says, "Bless me." Now, he does bless him. He blesses him to be one who casts off his brother's covering of him later. Esau matters because Esau becomes Edom. Edom becomes prophesied against later because they give up Israel to destruction. They do not help their brothers. They do not come to their aid. They do not serve them. But it's well after this. All of this is prophecy. All of it. So he gives him a blessing, but Esau bore a grudge. Now this is where Abraham gets totally undone in this story. Where Abraham says, "Do not take my son to Haran." Jacob flees to Haran. And what happens? Esau goes, "You know what? I know that it's not pleasing to Rebekah, to my mom, and to my dad that I take from these women." So he went to Ishmael, and he took kin from the other seed, right? The seed war thing, it just keeps rearing its head all the way through it. So Esau and Ishmael become a unit. They become a thing. And are they great? Yes, they are. And in the eyes of men, are they the right kind of men? Yes, they are. They are the strong, the mighty, the killers. They are the ones who can administrate, lead, teach. They are the ones who can bring up warriors because they themselves are warriors. And Israel is not going to escape that either. It just takes a little longer. So you see, now you also have to see how this divide is happening. Because there's going to be a divide in Israel along this exact same line. It doesn't just stay outside of like the Esau and Ishmael world and that seed. Because the seed that comes from Jacob also splits. So he's got to go. And he does. He gets sent away. Jacob goes to Laban. And the minute he gets there, at the same well that Abraham's servant finds Rebekah for Isaac, he sees Rachel. And he falls in love with her. But he shouldn't be there. The servant should be there bargaining for this to happen, to come back to Canaan. But because of his actions, he's not allowed in Canaan because Esau's going to kill him. So he goes to Laban, and what he finds out is that Laban is just as tricky as Jacob. And it's not super great. So Rachel comes, she talks, she's happy, she's a shepherdess. The shepherd thing is a big deal, right? Jacob went up and rolled the stone away. Jacob kissed Rachel. He wept. Not just because she was his family, but because he was madly in love with her the minute he met her. Laban had 2 daughters. Right now it tells you. Laban had 2 daughters. He wants Rachel. Laban had 2 daughters. But Jacob, he doesn't see it yet. The older was Leah. Leah's eyes were weak, but Rachel was beautiful. But Jacob loved Rachel. And so he said, I'll serve you 7 years. So he becomes a shepherd. He goes out. And this isn't really like Jacob's stepping out of his comfort zone right now. He went from a kind of scholar who dwelt in the tents with his mom to a guy who's out 24 hours a day in the wilderness, all for Rachel, taking care of animals. That's all he's doing, just taking care of animals, fending off wild animals, taking care of the sheep, taking care of the cattle. And he did this faithfully for love, right? That's a good thing. And that's that heart. See, there's a difference here. Now watch the seed, right? Because there's a spiritual thing in this. Esau went and saw and took a wife. Jacob saw, but didn't take right away. It's the self-control thing. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. So Jacob is producing the fruits of the Spirit by hard work, by waiting, by bargaining, by believing. He's going to get what he wants. Kinda. So after these 7 years, he goes and he says, give me my wife. It's time. I've seen, now I want to take. The garden, it's all in this. I've seen, now I want to take. And he says, okay, let's do this. We're going to have a feast. It's going to be great. Gets him drunk, puts him in a dark place, brings in Leah. In the morning, he realizes, what are you doing, man? Like, this isn't what we agreed to. This is Jacob. Jacob's getting Jacob right now. That's who God is, right? I love it. That's why I love this. And through, again, this is, if you have eyes to see this, then you can look in your life and you can see where God gives you your image. He shows you what he wants corrected. And then when you see it and you realize how ugly it is, then you change. But it's always through pain. Because death entered the world. We can no longer be taught in a soft way, unfortunately. So Jacob meets Jacob in Laban. He gets Leah. He wakes up and he's like, man, no. And he says, you don't understand our customs. He's playing tricks on him. You don't understand our customs. This is how it really works, son. You can have both of my daughters. Did God say leave and cleave to 2? I thought Lamech was bad for that, right? Oh, yeah. God knows we're evil. So here's Laban playing the game, right? Because he knows, he sees what's happening. This is Laban scheming just as Jacob did in that tent. When he lied to his father, he set this in motion. This is how God lives for us. This is how God teaches us to live for him. So go and sin. God won't destroy you for it, but he's going to destroy who you are for it. That's what's going to happen. He's going to show you your mirror image, and then you will be changed. So that lie you told, okay, fine. Wait until you get scammed, because it's coming. And then you're going to see how bad it is. And you're going to see that feeling. And if you're a wise man that loves God and you're reflective, then you go, oh, I'm sorry. I realized how bad I was. Let me get this log just a little bit further out, you know? Okay, so now he makes another deal. And he's going to wait 7 more years. But this time he doesn't have to wait. So he can take Rachel, but he's got to work, right? So now he has Leah and Rachel. And the women are at it again. That fall where the woman will try to overcome the husband, where there's jealousy and selfishness and pride. Here it comes. It's in the picture now. Leah has children, like immediately. Rachel, not so much. And there's a problem. Because Jacob loves her. But it can't happen. Jacob's getting his image back right at him. The thing you want so much, the thing you scheme so much to have, here's the fruitful thing, Jacob. How do you think Esau felt, big man? You know? Now you're getting scammed. What is it now? Is this really who you want to be, Jacob? And so he's learning. This is a hard part in Jacob's life, but it's not even remotely the hardest thing. So there's this point in here where mandrakes come into it. And nobody seems to understand. In this culture, at this time, in this way, this is like fertility. This is like fertility magic. These women are competing with one another, and the mandrakes are all about that sort of behavior. They're making like potions, right? So she says, well, give me some of his mandrakes. She says, why would I give you my son's mandrakes? I'll make a deal with you. He can come into me, and I'll give you some of the mandrakes. So then she goes out to Jacob, and she says, I hired you. You're coming to me now, because she got some mandrakes. But later on, she does have a baby. She has Joseph. Joseph is born, which is great. Joseph's a good boy. Now the problems begin, because Jacob prospers. Everything that Jacob does produces amazing fruit. And this, despite their using magic. Because, I mean, what is this? You put striped pieces. So this is what happens. He wants to go, right? He's like, look, give me my family, my kids. I'm out of here. I got to go. I've got enough. Like, I need to go. And he's like, no. Laban says, I've divined, right? They're all into this magic stuff. I've divined that my blessings are because of you. And so Jacob now sees his opportunity to scheme. So he says, give me the unclean animals, the speckled and mottled and spotted. Right? So he makes like a good deal, because Laban knows that the most valuable animals are the pure animals. So he makes a good deal. He's like, listen, all these ones that you don't actually want, that get cold and you eat and you give away or you sell for cheap price or whatever, I'll take them. I got that. Give those to me, and then we'll call it even. I will separate my flock from yours, and any of yours that you find in mine will be considered as stolen. So he makes a life and death agreement with Laban. You cannot steal people's animals. It's a big deal. And then what does he do? He starts doing magic too. At the feeding troughs, when the strong animals are mating, he puts striped, right? He puts striped pieces of wood and stuff in there. Does that actually produce striped and mottled animals? No. God is doing these things. God is blessing him. The animals that were pure became less than the animals that were mottled and spotted, because God was working on behalf of Jacob, who is still scheming. He's still got more to learn. but he's starting to get a glimpse of it. When it's time for him to go, he does it in the wrong way. He talks with his wives, and they say, hey, we got sold to you, so let's go. Now, just as a side note, and this is something I've just kind of dawned on me over the years, Jacob must have been a very charismatic person. Somebody that you really, really liked, right? Because he had 4 women fall in love and fight over him. And he had Laban just fawning over him because of how capable he was. He was a very, very capable person. And I think, I really do believe that that's like what God is. I think when God is blessing a person, they're really good at stuff. And I believe that's like, I can't wait to meet Jacob one day, because my guess is he's going to be like a very good to conversate with. I want to learn about him. I think he's a very exceptional person, like Abraham was. Abraham was a very, very exceptional man. And so is Jacob. He has to be. So but he does this wrong thing. He's like, okay, pack up your stuff, we're out of here. In the night. He's fleeing in the night. Now, again, go back to Genesis. What comes first? The night, then new creation, right? So there's these motifs that are flowing through this thing, and if you tie these things together, then you can see that something is building, right? He's going in the night, and in the day is the new thing, right? So here he is in the night fleeing. But they know, and they catch up to him. And when they catch up to him, he says, why did you flee secretly and deceive me? And did not tell me, so that I might have sent you away with joy and with song, with timbrel and with lyre. And did not allow me to kiss my sons and my daughters. Now you've done foolishly. It is in my power to do you harm. But the God of your father spoke to me last night, saying, be careful not to speak either good or bad to Jacob. Now you have indeed gone away, because you long greatly for your father's house. But why did you steal my gods? And who was it this time? The one that he loved the most, Rachel, she went and stole the household gods. Now, the rabbis say, well, she stole the gods because she knew that she might have to bargain with Laban to save Jacob, right? Okay, then why did he keep him for most of his life? Because he did. Why didn't she bargain with him when Laban was there looking for the gods? Because she knew that she would be killed. This was not a small, these were very expensive, but they were also the gods. It was the way that these people were living their lives. Polytheism was very strong, and this region had multiple different gods. And you would have these small gods in your house, and you'd pour out libation offerings on them, offer animals, and this was the way that you perceived yourself getting better, your life getting better. And so now, when Jacob leaves, not only is he leaving with the blessings that he had, but he's taking everything from Laban. And it was Rachel that did it. And again, Jacob must have been a very persuasive person, because his own daughter totally turned against him and took his household gods with her. I mean, Jacob, he's an interesting guy. So he goes there and he says, why'd you take my gods? Then Jacob replied, Laban, because I was afraid, for I thought that you would take your daughters from me by force. The one with whom you find your God shall not live. So I don't think it was about bargaining. I just think it's about blessing. It's about seeing and wanting and taking. It's all the sin. It's the fall playing itself out. The woman saw and took, right? Rachel saw and took. And she brought these into to Israel's house and to Jacob's house. Now, he argues, after he doesn't find it, he says, for 20 years I've been in your house. I served you 14 years for your daughters and 6 years for your flock, and you changed my wages 10 times. If the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had not been for me, surely now you would have sent me away empty-handed. God has seen my affliction and the toil of my hands, so he rendered judgment last night. Right? In the darkness came the change, the light, and then there was a new day. It was time for him to go, and not only did he render judgment last night, but he rendered judgment for Laban last night, because he had a vision. Don't do anything to him. In the night, the light changed the chaos. Now, but Jacob has a real problem. Because Laban, it says in the book of Yasher, says, okay, that's fine. I won't touch you. Send a messenger to Esau. Right? So somehow Esau found out. According to other sources, it says that Laban was like, okay, fine. I don't know where my gods are. I don't know what you've done, and I can't kill you, but I know someone who can. So let's go ahead and get Esau called. Mr. Jacob, go ahead and flee, mister. Watch what happens. I'll get all mine back. And now Esau's coming with 400 armed men. Why? You think he was coming just to say hi? Love you, bro? Right? Jacob knew this. Jacob knew this. And he had no choice but to start being Jacob. So he sets the people that he don't like the most in the front. He sets gifts in front of them. And he keeps back Rachel and Joseph. Keeps them back. And then he's behind them. That's the way he schemes it. So he sends everybody across the river. And then he stays back. And it's at this moment that he finally realizes that no scheming is going to make a difference. There's nothing he is going to do to make a difference. He has but one choice. And that choice is to call out to God. And that's what he does. So while they're all gone, he makes a fire and he starts to pray. And the angel of the Lord appears before him. Isaac never had the man God appear to him. Abraham did, and Jacob did. The man God appeared before him. And they wrestled. I don't think it was a wrestling match. I don't think it was them grabbing onto each other and, trying to get a takedown. I don't think it was like that. I think it was Jacob groveling and screaming and crying and wishing to live. Because he knew the minute Esau saw him, he was sticking a sword down his face. That's what was going to happen. Because Laban called him. It was time for Jacob to die for everything he had done. And he knew it. And that night, he cried and he screamed and he begged and he held on. You do not touch the God-man. You don't touch the angel of the Lord. But in his desperation, he was grabbing onto him and holding because he knew he was dead. And in that moment, in that instant, he gets asked a question. What's your name? He says, I'm Jacob. He says, yeah, but not anymore. Because you've wrestled with God and you've triumphed. And what does he say just prior to it? I won't let you go until you bless me. You know what that blessing was? It wasn't land and seed. It was, can I be alive tomorrow? Because I'm not going to be. And you know what God did? He made him not capable of war. If you know about war. You have to have a strong core. You have to have hips. You have to be able to move. You have to be able to duck, dive, roll, shoot, right? In this case, fight with a sword. If you don't have hip strength, you can't fight. And you know what Jacob did after that? Because he was changed in that moment. He was changed. He poured out all of his emotions, admitted everything he had ever been, recalled everything Abraham had fed him. All of the image of who Jacob was came in front of his face in Laban. And he knew it. And when he stood before God on that day, and when he knelt before God on that day, and when he held onto his robes and he cried and he screamed, he let it out, and he finally realized that the image of who he is will never see the kingdom because he's been a deceiver the whole time. And God said, good, now it's time for you to be different. But you can't meet your brother a healthy man. Popped his head. So now when he meets his brother, instead of being at the back of the pack, he moves to the front of the pack. Because now Jacob's not Jacob anymore. He's Israel. So he goes first. And he sees, this is what Esau sees. He sees a man who can't fight. Esau respects strength. Esau wants to meet an equal on the battlefield. And what does he find? A man who can't fight. God saved his life by wounding him. That's what this story is about. And Esau actually is a pretty decent dude. He's like, hey, I'll escort you. You're wounded. And he's like, no. I've seen enough of you, Esau. Like, you're not, no. You might change your mind. Stab me in the back. You know what I mean? Like, you just keep going on with your 400 men. I'm going to limp my happy self on to a different place. And that's what he does. They don't mix together. The two seeds don't mix. Righteousness is of God, and it's called by God, and it's given by God, and we should not take from that other side. Jacob knew that. He knew it was time to change. Now, Jacob became a weak man following this. He was never the same. In Shechem, there was a young man who saw Dinah, his daughter. And they raped her. He raped her. And then he took her into the cities. Now so you see, this is where that seed war starts for Jacob's kids. Because now, his sons are becoming warriors. They're becoming the killer types. So, they go make a fake deal. They take after their father. If you will be circumcised, we'll give you Dinah. And they're like, yeah, that sounds good. They'll be our people. All of their flocks will be our flocks. They were scheming back, right? We'll have all this food, all these animals. We'll be wealthy too. And then after, on the third day, the 3 theme is coming back up. That day of the max pain, the perfect pain. They go in and they kill all the men and loot the city and take the children and take the women. And that's who Jacob's sons have become. And it plays out a lot worse in just a little while yet. Jacob has to flee from there. And where does he go? The house of God, to Bethel. So he leaves there, and Rachel dies. And she's having her second son. Now, where does she die? In Bethlehem. And she has Ben Onan and Ben Ami. She calls him son of my sorrow. Jacob calls him son of my right hand, my strong power. The two thing. Who was the son of sorrow? Jesus. Who is the son of power? Jesus. Where was he born? Bethlehem, right? This is all prophetic stuff. And these books, it just requires that, right? Like, you got to keep reading them and read them until it starts to stand out. We're going to get into the final parts of 36 next week. It'll be important anyways because we got to get into Jacob's son. So Esau will play his part and move on, and then it'll be Jacob's sons that follow. So next week we'll talk about that. Any questions? No? Okay. Yeah, these books, this is the foundation of everything that the Bible is. If we can ascertain these stories, if we can really get them deep inside of us, as you go further, especially into the prophets and stuff, you'll start to see these names get repeated in there and how they blessings and curses and how that seed war really starts it because it becomes a worldwide phenomenon. the world was destroyed in a flood because evil was a worldwide phenomenon. We're on our way to a whole world of evil, but this time it won't be destroyed that way. And this story plays and bears all that out. Yeah, from Ismael. Yep. From Ismael and Keturah. Yep. From Abraham's descendants. Yep. You got it? Oh, we're going to play the music on the way out? Okay. If you'd like to reach out to us, please do modernmindancientbook@gmail.com. Thank you.